Have you ever noticed how much of your life unfolds without you actually being there? Not physically, of course. You show up to work, you reply to messages, you eat, you scroll, you even laugh at the right moments. But deep down, you know you're only half present. You're running on autopilot, going through the motions, living a life that feels eerily similar to yesterday's, and the day before that, and the day before that. And if you're honest, doesn't it scare you a little to realize that entire months, maybe even years, have passed in this fog of unconscious routine? The unsettling truth is that most of us are alive, but few of us are truly living. Before we dive deeper, I've put together a companion PDF that expands on what we'll discuss here. It's not just theory. It's filled with reflections and exercises to help you step out of autopilot in your daily life. The link is in the description if you'd like to explore it. Philosophers throughout history saw this problem long before smartphones, deadlines, and endless notifications became our distractions. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius warned that people waste much of their lives chasing trivialities while ignoring the essence of existence. Kierkegaard wrote about despair not as dramatic suffering, but as the quiet sickness of a life unlived, a person who never confronts themselves, who never dares to awaken. And Nietzsche, with his brutal honesty, accused humanity of becoming herds, content to follow, comfortable to drift, afraid to disturb the quiet illusion that everything is fine. But deep down, we all know something isn't fine. Consider this. How often do you catch yourself saying, "Where did the time go?" That's not just an innocent remark. It's an unconscious admission that you weren't truly there for your own life. You were present enough to function, but absent from the very moments that make life worth living. Let me tell you a story. A man wakes up every morning at 6:30. He showers, eats the same breakfast, drives the same route, greets the same colleagues, completes the same tasks, comes home, eats, scrolls his phone until his eyes ache, and falls asleep. He repeats this for 30 years. Nothing is necessarily wrong. He pays his bills, he's reliable, his neighbors think well of him. But when he is old and frail, he looks back and realizes he was never truly there. His days blurred into one indistinguishable mass. His life was safe, but empty. This story isn't fiction. It's the unspoken biography of millions of people. And here's the uncomfortable part. It could be yours if you aren't careful. Living on autopilot doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. In fact, it feels comfortable. Predictability shields us from risk, and routine gives us structure. But the danger is not that autopilot makes life painful. It's that it makes life invisible. You don't suffer dramatically. You simply vanish quietly into a stream of days that could have been lived by anyone. This is exactly why I created the PDF guide, because sometimes it's not enough to just hear these stories or ideas. We need tools to apply them, to break the fog of routine in real, tangible ways. That's what you'll find inside the guide. You can check it out below. Plato warned of this in his allegory of the cave. Most people, he argued, live chained in shadows, mistaking illusions for reality. They never turn to see the light outside, because shadows are familiar. Shadows are safe. To live fully requires the terrifying act of turning your head, of leaving the cave, of confronting the raw brilliance of reality. But why don't we? Why do we resist waking up? Because to wake up means to face truths we'd rather avoid. That time is slipping irreversibly, that comfort is not the same as meaning, that our deepest fears are not external, but internal. The fear of choosing wrongly, of wasting our one existence, of realizing that the life we live is not truly ours, but borrowed from the expectations of others. Nietzsche once wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." And isn't that still true? How many of your choices are genuinely yours, and how many are subtle imitations of what you thought you were supposed to do? Study this, buy that, marry here, settle down there. The herd lives on autopilot. The individual who dares to break free suffers, yes, but also lives. Autopilot is not just routine. It is the quiet surrender of your freedom. And here's the paradox. People often say they want freedom, yet they cling to the very patterns that imprison them. It's easier to scroll endlessly than to sit alone in silence. It's easier to repeat the same job year after year than to confront the terrifying possibility of failure in pursuing something new. It's easier to wear the same mask than to show the world who you really are. But here is the cost. The longer you stay on autopilot, the more you forget what it feels like to live awake. And one day, perhaps when you least expect it, you'll realize you've lived more memories through screens than through your own eyes. Kierkegaard said, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur so quietly that it is as if it were nothing at all." That line should haunt us, because isn't that exactly how autopilot works? You don't lose yourself in a single dramatic crash. You lose yourself slowly, invisibly, one unconscious day at a time. So what can you do? The first step is not to burn down your life or quit everything overnight. That's romantic, but it's not sustainable. The first step is something far simpler, but infinitely harder. Pay attention. Notice when you're moving without presence. Catch yourself when you're scrolling, eating, or even speaking on autopilot. Stop. Breathe. Ask, am I really here or just existing mechanically? Awareness is the crack in the autopilot. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The second step is to dare small rebellions. Walk a different route. Read something outside your comfort zone. Say no when you usually say yes. Sit in silence instead of filling every gap with noise. These small acts of resistance remind you that you are not chained, that you have the power to disrupt the inertia of your days. But the final step, the hardest, the most transformative, is to confront what you're truly avoiding. Because autopilot is always avoidance. Avoidance of fear, of uncertainty, of death, of responsibility. And yet, paradoxically, when you face what you fear, you discover not despair, but liberation. Nietzsche spoke of amor fati, the love of one's fate. It's not passive acceptance, but an embrace of life in all its difficulty, all its messiness, all its uncertainty. To say yes to life as it is, and in that yes, to awaken. So I want to challenge you with a question. One day far from now, when you're at the end, looking back, will you be proud of the life you've lived? Or will you quietly whisper to yourself, I was never really here? Don't wait for that moment to wake up. If today's reflections unsettled you in some way, and you want to go further than just thinking about it, I've created the PDF guide as a way to do exactly that. It's designed to help you live these ideas, not just hear them. Something you can carry into your own everyday life. You'll find the link below. You don't need to change everything overnight, but you do need to change something. You need to feel the weight of time, not as a burden, but as a call to live more urgently. You need to stop mistaking comfort for meaning, routine for presence, autopilot for life. The philosopher Heidegger said that authentic living begins with the awareness of death, not in a morbid sense, but in a liberating one. When you remember that you will die, you realize that every single day matters. Every moment you waste on autopilot is a moment you will never get back. So maybe the real tragedy is not that we die, but that we forget to live before we do. As you close this video, resist the temptation to just move on to the next distraction. Pause. Sit in silence for a moment. Feel the weight of your own existence. Ask yourself honestly, am I truly awake in my life, or am I just drifting? Because the cost of living on autopilot is not measured in hours or days. It is measured in the loss of your only life. And if that truth unsettles you, good. It means you're waking up.